Hey, everybody, Dr. Grant here, and today we're going to be talking about how to maximize your focus energy for entrepreneurs. Now, if you are someone that is an entrepreneur, you probably have reached to a point where maybe you're completely burnout and you're stressed, you're having a hard time with focusing, being productive, and you probably either have ADHD or you wonder if you do have ADHD, and that's why you're having issues with focus and energy. So, what I want to iterate here is something that I do stress with a lot of my entrepreneur clients that I work with. And that has to do with that. I think when we reach that state of complete burnout, or when we are really at a point where we're trying to use extra stimulants just to get ourselves going in the morning. So whether that's, whoops, switch over to my pencil here. Whether that's, coffee, Red Bull, energy drinks, any kind of medication, stimulants, anything that can possibly just keep us going throughout the day to stay focused and productive throughout the day. And the issue that we face is when we are taking these stimulants, these are things that stimulate the body and tell our body, okay, let's produce more cortisol, let's produce more, different hormones or different things that are going to drive more of that energy. The problem is it's not necessarily giving us more nutrients to the body, it's just stimulating the body. So there's always a fine balance with stimulants that we need, but when we overdo it, it's like the body is being just completely squeezed, pressurized, kind of like a sponge of asking more from the body. And very specifically, things like the adrenals that sit right above the kidneys. So kind of to reiterate this and take this home is the adrenals are everything to do with when it comes to energy, and also can impact our focus throughout the day, especially as entrepreneurs. And so one of the biggest things is cortisol. Okay. So cortisol is what gets us up in the morning. It's how we function throughout the day. And so if you look at it as like a graph here, let's say this is, 6 a.m. Then over here is 10 p.m. Okay. And so this is a time graph here. Say this is 12. And how you want your cortisol levels to go is like it gets you up in the morning, so it's highest in the morning, then it kind of like starts dropping off, still high enough throughout the day, and then it really starts dropping off at night, so that way we have enough energy. Okay, so that's where we want it. The problem is, especially entrepreneurs, we burn ourselves out. And so what happens is we might be down here where our cortisol levels are first thing in the morning. And so the adrenals are not so happy. They're not producing as much cortisol in the morning. And that becomes an issue. Why that becomes an issue? So let me know in the chat, do you have issues? I'm curious. So put in the chat if you experience low energy first thing in the morning when you wake up. Are you a morning person or not? Are you someone that just has a hard time that you have to drink that pound of coffee or take some kind of stimulant just to get you going through the day? Let me know in the chat if you experience that. Put that in the chat. So if that's the case, first thing in the morning that you're like, it's low here, and then it's still low throughout the day, and it's just wavering, and then you can't really function. Not only does this impact energy, it also will impact your focus as well, being consistent throughout the day. And that's an issue. So we got someone here. Surreal says, yes, I do. Of course, I experienced that as well. And then someone asked here, this is a really good question. Phil, how can you actually test your cortisol levels? So really good question. So how we test the cortisol levels actually through saliva tests throughout the day to test for cortisol. So it's something I do a lot with my patients and clients to see, okay, let me get a different color here. Is it low first thing in the morning? Or is it spiked? There's sometimes, we'll see it spiked. So like, let's say, maybe it's fine here. Then all of a sudden it spikes. later in the evening or something. What does this mean? So what if cortisol is elevated, spiked, especially at certain points of the day? You're going to feel a lot more stressed and agitated. You can't function. And guess what? You're not going to be able to focus either because the cortisol levels are too high. And so if that's the case, we have to address this differently. So for people in the blue here, just go to back to, is it the blue? Yeah. Generally, we need to add some adrenal support. So generally, I like to start with like adrenal desiccated. And that helps supporting the adrenals to also help improve cortisol levels. Okay. But if it's spiked like this, we have to address it differently. And so if you really want to combat that complete burnout that's also impacting your focus as well as an entrepreneur, generally to lower this down, you're going to want to incorporate things like ashwagandha or like rhodiola, or something like 2 important herbs that are going to help lower these cortisol levels. Now, what if you don't have them spiked and you're in this case, this situation? The blue guy, not the green guy. Blue guy, it's just low cortisol levels. You definitely don't want to add ashwagandha or rhodiola. Maybe you've actually, let me know in the chat if you had bad experiences with ashwagandha or rhodiola. And probably because you didn't need it. In fact, you made things worse because the cortisol levels were too low. So this is why it's really important to always test and investigate. So this is something I see with my patients and clients that we need to address and understand what is going on here in the first place before we decide to implement anything. Okay, so that's one component there. There's several other ones that we need to also look into. Hormones, some other hormones that need to be addressed. So one of them, looking at the thyroid. Now, I am not just talking about, you might have like, who's here like run their TSH? So thyroid stimulating hormone. So probably a lot of your doctors have, and they told you, oh, your thyroid's fine. No issue here. You're good. Nothing need to address here. Let me know in the chat if you've actually had your thyroid stimulating hormone tested and your doctor said it was okay. Let me know in the chat. Because that one is specifically produced from the brain. That's why we call it the thyroid stimulating hormone. The brain is stimulating the thyroid. The hormones that are actually being produced from the thyroid are T3 and T4. I usually like to test, free T3 and free T4. Okay. That's usually a good sensitive test to see, is there actually really a thyroid issue? But even before that, testing like something like anti-TPO levels can be really good too. Because what this means is the body is attacking the thyroid if your anti-TPO levels are elevated. I probably should do different colors here. Let me use this color. And that's usually an early sign. And usually your TSH levels are going to be normal at first. But when the body's attacking the thyroid, now why does this relate to energy and focus? It relates a lot to. So there's one other thing that people don't consider when it comes to thyroid issues. So it does not only happen in the thyroid. It also happens in the liver. Liver will convert T4, convert, free T3 and free T4, like it'll convert those in the liver. So that's really important. Also the heart. So we put the heart here too, can deal with it. Also our gut can convert this. So there's what I call as peripheral thyroid issues. So if these specific organs are not working optimally, guess what? It's not going to produce adequately the thyroid hormones that we need to use. Now, why is thyroid hormone so important? Thyroid, when it is not adequate, you're going to feel tired. You're going to have focus, brain fog issues. So what we're discussing today. So as an entrepreneur, this is so common, especially amongst women. 1 in 8 women tend to have thyroid issues. It's a big number. And I guarantee you this actually does impact your ADHD significantly if this is not addressed. So this is something I do like to check to kind of look at for, and this is something really important. Now, another thing to consider is looking at the gut. Now, the gut is really vital too when it comes to your low energy issue that you're is suffering with, and also your focus issues as an entrepreneur. So why the gut is so important is because the gut is what feeds the whole body, feeds the brain, feeds the whole body. And if that is an issue, the gut's what actually starts making a lot of our different neurotransmitters. So our brain chemistry, 90 to 95% of a lot of our neurotransmitters are made in the gut. And so if there is a, candida situation, or you have irritable bowel syndrome, so like IBS, or any kind of like gassing, bloating, your gut's probably not working very optimally. And I'll argue that most people don't have a very well optimized gut. And when that's the case, your brain's not going to work optimally. And so it's important to also address this, because when we can address this, guess what? Not only does your energy improve, your focus will improve, because now you're adequately producing enough of the different neurotransmitters that the body needs, not just the brain, but also throughout the body. And so another thing to kind of hit this home too is that inside the gut lining within the large and small intestines, when things are inflamed, we can call like leaky gut issues, it does impact the brain directly. Not only from a neurotransmitter perspective, because the gut and brain are very well interconnected with each other. And so if one's not working properly, the other one's not going to work as optimally as well. So this is why the gut is so important to address. And so when we can address this, and usually what we need to address here is typically, especially if you're dealing with just kind of any minor symptoms of gut, like put that in the chat, or do you deal with any kind of gut gassing, bloating issues, constipation, like, are you having issues where you're constipated, or maybe even diarrhea, any of that stuff? If you are, then you're probably having some issues with the gut. And when we can address this with usually adequate nutrients that the body does need to reduce the inflammatory markers that are happening within the gut, that can make a huge difference. All right. Now, taking this another step further, we've already kind of addressed about the liver here a little bit, that, there's different thyroid hormones that are important, happen in the liver, but also the liver deals with gluconeogenesis, which has a lot to do with, converting and dealing with glucose. So our sugar, so that, can be an impact there. Also iron. Iron is huge for providing nutrients and oxygen throughout the body, but more importantly, the brain. And so when someone is dealing with an iron issue, so if you have an iron issue, sometimes the issue could also be because the liver is not working optimally. And so we have to address that. We have to look, okay, is there an issue with the liver? Another thing is looking at the pancreas. So the pancreas is what produces very important digestive enzymes. So one's for fats, proteins, and carbs. If that's not working optimally, guess what? It's not going to feed the body. It's not going to feed the brain. And so sometimes we have to support the pancreas. A lot of times that could be just through, pancreatic enzymes. It also could be just focusing on foods, more sour and bitter foods. Why sour and bitter foods? Well, sour and bitter foods will stimulate digestive enzymes, especially right from the mouth. We actually have enzymes just from our saliva and throughout our digestive tract. And so when we add more sour bitter foods, which most Americans have an issue with that because we put sugar in everything. And so anytime I have people that come here to America, they end up having digestive issues, mainly because they're not eating how they used to. It's because America, we have more of a standardized Americanized diet, has a lot too much, things are too sweet. We put sugar in everything. And so we've removed a lot of sour and bitter stuff from our diet when we need to incorporate it more. Okay. Now, obviously the big one, that a lot of people think about when it comes about focus issues, if you have ADHD and you're an entrepreneur and you're like, I have focus issues, I can't be productive, I can't be present. Well, a lot of people like to go to the brain. And yes, the brain's a big part of this as well. And some of the big things that we have to keep in mind about the brain is it's not just a dopamine problem, that we have to realize there's more to it than just dopamine. There's certain key excitatory neurotransmitters like phenylethylamine right here. That is the very beginning of the whole dopamine pathway anyways. So sometimes that can be low and we have to address that. Sometimes there's certain key amino acids, phenylethylamine or tyrosine, that could be wrong. or norepinephrine and epinephrine that actually deals a lot with our stress. So we have to look at that. And so when I look at this with my patient clients, so just like this patient right here, where we ran a test for to look at these, I don't see this very often, but when I do, it makes a very clear sign of why the way they feel. When they're low on every marker here, dopamine, tyrosine, phenylethylamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, serotonin, GABA, all of those are low, glycine, taurine. I mean, I guess I'm torn on that one, but histamine. All these levels are low. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel lack of motivation and drive. You're going to feel depressed because of lack of your serotonin levels are too low. You're going to feel agitated and irritated too because you can't manage your stress. So when we can clearly see this, and sometimes they might be too high. So sometimes the markers could be too high, and then you could feel a little bit more stressed or agitated. Just depends. But when we actually could do investigative work with this patient, I clearly had to implement a lot of different amino acids, a lot of different things to help bring those markers up. And once we did, not only was his depression gone, his anxiety was more stabilized, his focus and motivation drive improved, and his energy, because we identified it through looking through lab work. So lab work is definitely a very important thing when hitting this home, as far as to really improve your focus and energy as an entrepreneur. You need to do investigative work to understand what is the root cause of your symptoms. What is it? Goodness, I can't spell today. What is it? What's the root cause? And the only way really that I know, been doing this for a long time, is really doing some lab work and investigative work, just like I have done with this patient and many more of my patients I work with, to help with their ADHD, their focus issues. Especially as entrepreneurs, this is so common to see these issues happen. And so if you would like to, get the same kind of results that many of my patients and clients do, then, the best next step is really to dive in, understand how we can understand the imbalances of your body chemistry. Because doing this alone, it isn't easy. Like, the body is very complex. And so here's why I say that, because, you need to help find the source of your imbalances, of really what's going on, the root cause of your issues with your focus and your energy issues. And then you need a more customized plan of action that's actually going to help you get the results that you want. And that's customized specifically what you need specifically for you. And then, you need someone who's going to hold you accountable so you fall through, so you can be consistent in having those consistent results throughout your life. And so here's exactly how I can help you. And so my health experts have set aside, time to speak with you personally to help you get started in getting results. And so it's called the Focus Mindset Strategy Session. So in this Focus Mindset Strategy Session, we'll put together a specific plan for your situation to help you have a better focus, better energy to excel in life. And so here's exactly how we'll do this together. First, we'll uncover what's behind your actual focus and low energy situation and your issues that you're dealing, or if it's with your ADHD as well. So what is it? And it's your blind spot. It's something that you have never been told and never been identified with your other doctors. And so that's something we'll be able to help to reveal and understand really what's going on there. And then, we'll customize a plan of action that will get you unstuck. And then finally, we'll determine if it makes sense, for us to work together more closely. And so here's what's offered in the Focus Mindset Strategy Session. It'll be with one of my health experts that includes a 45-minute one-on-one personalized strategy session. That's a $750 value. And then also, as a bonus, you get access to our nutritionist lifestyle tracking app that we use with all our patients and clients to track foods, sleep, heart rate, blood pressure, blood sugar, several things that are very important to track when it comes to optimizing someone's energy and focus and improving their ADHD. And so that's something you'll get access to. That's a $300 value. And then as a bonus, if you do purchase today, you do get access to my ADHD health course. And so that's a $597 value. This is basically implements ways to optimizing and having that optimal ADHD health. And then, so all of this, you get access to all these things, and that's a full value of $1,647 bucks. And you get it all for just only $297. And so all you got to do is just click on the link in the description below. So once you click on that link in the description below, this is really important. Once you purchase, a lot of people forget to do this, you still need to book your appointment and your time. So once you purchase, you still need to click this button to go to the next page to book your date and time, because it's really important. And then fill out your name. And then once you've done that, you'll come to this page. Now it's really important to check your email to make sure you got your confirmation appointment so that you booked it. Also, that you should get an email to activate your Practice Better account. This is how you get access to the nutrition lifestyle tracking app. It's also where you're going to fill out the client questionnaire. So it's important to fill that out. We need that filled out before your appointment. We prefer if you fill it out right away if you can, but at least a couple days before your appointment. So I have time to look over it, and also our health experts have time to look over it, so we can put together our action plan for you and what labs we want to implement, because that helps us understand your medical history. It's very in-depth, so be very thorough with that. And then if you have any labs, any standard labs in the past year, not in the past 2 years, just in the past year, definitely going to go ahead and upload those into Practice Better, and then make sure to block out 45 minutes to an hour, because sometimes we'll go a full hour if you have more questions. So make sure to just block out a full hour if we need to go over, and then show up early. We do give you a 10-minute grace period. If you don't show up in time, we'll have to mark it as a no-show, but we do send you lots of reminders. We do message you. So we make sure that you do show up to your appointment. So if you are really serious about really tackling your, focus and energy issue as an entrepreneur, and you really want to finally finalize this and understand the root causes of your problems, especially if you have ADHD, then go ahead and book that consultation in the description below. And I will see you guys all in the next live stream. Thanks. Bye.